Okay, everybody, and yes, you get to put up with my voice. I yelled too much over the weekend and I'm paying for it. Okay, I got way too excited. Now, our speaker, Joe Stevens, had a family emergency this morning and he and I have just been talking. He is on his way. He is going to be just a little bit late, but he will be getting here. He had a couple videos that he was going to play. So we're going to start with those and talk a little bit about Joppa. If you are in one of my classes and you are here because attendance is required, make sure that you sign up on the sheets in the back, okay? All right, so we're going to start with the video that describes what Joppa does.
Hi, I'm Joe, and I'm one of the Joppa co-founders. Joppa helps homeless people survive, find housing, and rebuild their lives. Our mission is to create communities of unconditional love, support, and hope for the homeless as we work together to prevent and ultimately end homelessness. Joppa collaborates with other agencies, helps people access resources, and develops unique programs that meet unmet needs in outreach, housing, and education. When you care about people, you spend time with them. So each week, Joppa volunteers go out and visit with all the people living under bridges, in tents, and in vehicles, and we get to know them. We meet immediate needs such as food, water, and toilet paper. Joppa helps homeless people survive each day by providing basic necessities, health-related items, temporary shelters, mail service, boots to protect their feet, and making sure everyone has heat throughout the winter. Our ultimate goal is to get people back into housing, and we do this by working with all the housing agencies and programs in town, as well as private landlords and property owners. Joppa has helped hundreds of families and individuals get back into housing, and more than 85% of these men, women, and children remain in housing today. That's possible because of our extensive aftercare and Circle of Friends programs, where we continue the relationship and visiting with people weekly in their new homes. And it's just such a joy to see people that we met in a camp somewhere or under a bridge in housing and now on their path to recovery. Joppa is developing transitional tiny home villages and permanent cottage homes that are truly affordable. A tiny home village is a beautiful gated community designed by architects. It provides people a safe place to go with a structured program to help them gain a source of income and overcome their other barriers to housing within a 6 to 24 month period. Cottage homes are truly affordable rental units also designed by architects, with rents ranging from only $250 to $750 a month for a fully furnished home. In education, we work closely with colleges, universities, and adults to help them understand why people are homeless and what can be done to help those who are currently experiencing homelessness. Joppa Kids is a K-12 program for schools, youth groups, and kids clubs where students learn about the root causes of homelessness and do something to help the homeless through their service learning and Silver Cord hours. We also do a number of events such as the Joppa Community Cleanups, the Homeless Christmas Celebration, and the Iowa Homeless Memorial that we hold each year at the state capitol on December 21st to remember those that have died homeless in Iowa. Joppa is all about meeting unmet needs and filling gaps in services in our community. And we couldn't do any of this without your generous donations and the hundreds of volunteers that contribute literally thousands of hours each year to make this work possible. It's important work, and we're making a major difference in the hearts and lives of people experiencing homelessness right here in our community.
My name's Tommy. I concrete paving streets and parking lots up here for about 25 years. I got up over 50 and decided it's time to get out of concrete. Things haven't really been that great for me since that point. I've been a little bit odd jobs here and there. Financial reasons, I ended up out here. It does get really tough in the wintertime, even for me. You know, you wake up in the morning and and you know there's frost on the walls. Your clothes are frosty. Throw them inside the sleeping bag with you for a little while and try to warm them up. Get into them, and get out and run around. But other than that, that's about all you can do about it. And being out here with no address, no phone, it does make it difficult when you go to apply for certain jobs. As soon as they find out that you're homeless, they think you're not worth their time, regardless of what reputation you may have built over the years. Unless they know you, once they find out you're homeless, don't have a phone, they drop your application in the trash can as soon as you leave. It's not so much the fact that I'm living out here, it's the fact that I have to live out here. Financially, I don't have a choice. And I see the world going on around me all the time. And it's like candy just out of reach. And that, as much as I hate to admit it, that does work on your mind. It tends to put you down a time or two.
My name is Rita. I was living and working in LA when I first came into this country from Canada. I was a government employee. So I had my son, my daughter, and a baby. I was happy. I was playing house. My second winter here from California, I got an apartment downtown off of Woodland and 18th Street. And it cost me $300 for a one room efficiency. The wintertime, the heat cost me another $300, and that was 2 weeks of my salary. I came down to where I'm staying now on my bicycle, psyched out of the place, called it a tow truck. Tow truck came down, got me, my camper, my stuff, and pulled me in. I was looking out my window, and his dog came down. He had a young pup, about 4 or 5 months old. And his dog came down to me, and I said, well, I'm going to take his dog back to him. And I walked it up the path. And I looked on the path. There was somebody was lying on their face in the snow. And turned him over, and it was Bobby. And I took the snow and the ice out of his beard and felt him. He hadn't been dead very long, There's a saying, yea, though you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil. I know I'm walking through the valley of the shadow of death now.
My name's Al Lupert. I've been homeless 18 years, and I became homeless due to my alcoholism. I just gave up. When I lost the house and lost my family, I just quit working, quit doing anything that meant anything to me because I had nothing. I've lived underneath bridges in the wintertime. I've lived in tents in the wintertime. It's hard.
Describe it. Why is it hard?
Cold, wetness, the dew. No matter how much you try to put the blankets and stuff around your tent, all your stuff inside, you try to put it in a corner so you got more room. It's wet. It gets soaked. You lose a lot of clothes.
Describe your lowest point and what it was like.
Losing my kids. The house didn't bother me much, but I missed out on their growing up. I came here for this reason, to get back with my family. I can't see my grandbaby because I live out in the woods. In order for me to actually have a relationship with my grandbaby, I need to have her in a clean apartment, in an environment that is worthy of a grandchild and a grandfather.
My name's Terry Schumann. I've lived out in Las Vegas, Nevada for the past about 15 years. I was married for 15 years, and basically my husband drove semi coast to coast for a living, and we lived out there. He ended up getting a gambling habit, and we ended up fighting over, paying bills or gambling. And needless to say, I lost, and he got mad at me and told me to get my things and get out. Basically, I just try to find me a spot. I'd more or less walk all day looking around to find a safe enough spot where I wouldn't get bothered and where I'd feel secure. And then I'd go ahead and either set up my tent or just roll the sleeping bag out and go to sleep for the night. It got to the point where I went out, I think it was off the Euclid and 235, Interstate 235. I sat there on that bridge, and it was raining, and I just felt like giving up. And I was debating on jumping off the bridge.
My name's John Laddiehoff. I was living in Perry for a few years, moved from Denison. Come back up here. My wife wanted to be around her family and stuff, so we moved back up here, and my drinking was pretty bad, and she had enough of it, so we split up. And after about a year and a half, I ended up coming up here, and my wife my wife moved to Missouri, and that's when I kind of started being homeless. My boss actually went on vacation for a week, and I had nothing to do. Nobody called for work or anything, so I decided one day just to go check my emails down at the library. Went and checked my emails, and like the fourth or fifth one down, I had seen my wife was back in Perry. Went through a lot of problems down there, a lot of trouble, in the beginning, but in the end it all turned out, everything settled down, and got to working and went off my medicine for about 5-6 months, because I was working enough to where it took care of my anxiety and depression, and tried to move on a little bit. What happened was happening, and the best way to deal with it was to work through it, and that's what I did. Got a job and just went to work.
It's a struggle for sure, really. I mean, I guess you got one opinion of what homeless is until you go down and meet them or live down there, and it's a whole nother story.
My name is Mary. I'm an RN. I've been one for 25 years. I was working in California, and I was in an abusive relationship, and it ended up giving me post-traumatic stress, and I wasn't able to work anymore. I used to make, doing a double, like $780 a day. I was bringing $4,000 a week, and I had a nice life, a nice house on the beach, and then I couldn't work, and I couldn't pay my bills, and then I was homeless. I had no place to go, so my boyfriend and I went down between the 7th and 9th Street Bridge and started making our home, basically. There was men all camped all around me. It was terrible. I met women by themselves that had big dogs. I know a girl down the way that she was getting really worked over, and where could she go though? There was nowhere to go. I was just humiliated and mad at myself to be in this situation, because I thought I should be stronger, and I couldn't believe I lost my house on the beach. My mom died several months ago and left me some money, and I bought a van. I don't need a van, I needed a car, but all the seats went down, and subconsciously I was thinking, if I'm ever homeless again, at least I have this.
My name is Van. My last woman had some health problems, and the bills were mounting up quickly. One of my friends said, well, that I can make a lot of money making crack. When they popped me, I was facing 50 years. I bargained it down to 13 for manufacturing and distribution. When I got out of prison, I thought I'd go right back to the mainstream, go right to work. But then a lot of my friends, said we'd love to hire you, but our insurance company doesn't think that's such a good idea. In the 2 years I've been out of prison, I've had 2 heart attacks, 2 strokes, and four major operations. And that's one of them. I made my money by picking up cans and bottles, digging in dumpsters, and I would guess I walk about 20 miles a day because I go all over town.
If you couldn't walk, suddenly if you couldn't walk and you were out here in a tent, what would happen? I mean, what would that be like if there was no one around to help you?
Well, well, one of 2 things. If I was able to walk, I'd either starve to death or kill myself. One of the 2 choices.
So what has Joppa done for you?
Oh my, what has Joppa done for me? Everything from batteries to Band-Aids. Blankets, baked beans.
Last year when we had the 3 major snowstorms, you know, Joppa brought propane, heaters, even brought coffee, which was a lifesaver.
You helped me with my bus ticket to Nevada.
And why did you go?
My sister died, and I hadn't seen her about 15 years, and it was my last chance to say goodbye.
If it wasn't for Joppa, I wouldn't be alive today. It's quite simple. Joppa's provided me with propane. Joppa's given me sleeping bags to stay warm with, warm clothes so I don't die.
Wintertime, like now, you know, you guys bring propane down to us and stuff. The propane comes in handy. It keeps everybody warm down there, you know.
So I talked to God every day and said, please, just give me some place where I can stay and I don't have to worry about not having a house. And then you guys came and helped me get a house. And now I can take care of myself. But I couldn't have done it without you. Couldn't have.
You know, I was feeling like it was just the end of the world. You know, I just felt like giving up. Then when I found out about you and you showed up with your wife and your son, it's like I had some hope again, you know? That red brick right there with the tower up behind it, that's the apartment building that I live in.
I think I probably would have been dead already. You know, if it had been for the stuff that Joppa's done for me.
Some people die out there. People freeze to death. People get murdered. Women get raped. We can't do anything to help these people unless we have donations. That's why I was so happy to give what I did. You know, because I knew it would help someone, and I knew how, because it had happened to me.
If it wasn't for donations, people wouldn't, you know, we wouldn't have got the trailer and got into the trailer house. Probably still be living out there.
I'm getting off the river due to Joppa's love and kindness to me. This is one person that doesn't need Joppa no more. If a little bit of money can help 5 or 6 other people get off the river, isn't it worth it?
To all these people, my biggest thing is thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And if it wasn't like for people like Joppa, it'd be a hell of a lot worse down here than it already is.
It's nice to get off of work and come home and sit on a nice couch and take a shower and eat a nice hot meal off of a real stove, you know, even though the stoves you guys bring us are good, but it ain't nothing like sitting in your own house, you know. Thanks, Joppa!
It's more common these days that if you were homeless, you've experienced trafficking. I have 2 kids. My son is 13 and my daughter's 11. Right now, they are with a guardian through the DHS system. In 2019, I lost my grandmother. She was a very essential and spiritual leader in my life. She would provide for me and help me. She'd give you the shirt off her back. I was already self-medicating. I was paycheck to paycheck. It was right before the statewide shutdown in 2020 that my federal taxes got taken out for the student loans. It took my entire refund. I ended up in a situation where I couldn't save myself anymore. I already had a no contact order on the children's father. I couldn't stay where he was staying, and that was my only other choice. I became homeless and was unable to provide adequate housing.
It's never easy to say, you know, your kids would be better not with you at the time.
I knew then that it was just about surviving, getting through the situation I was in and getting back to a good place. I had to change in public, like right out in the open. It was just awkward and it made me look silly too, you know, and it was embarrassing. A lot of being in public homeless is humiliating. It's just the worst kind of humiliation. I was glad that the skywalks were open. I said, if those skywalk doors are open, then I can stay warm. I wasn't quite brave enough to lay down and sleep. I was quite tired most of the time because I had experienced some violent attacks on the street and people stealing my things. So I was afraid to fall asleep and wake up with nothing, or worse, not wake up. There was a couple times when I was invited to stay at a hotel room, and that was difficult for me because I know what they were proposing. But I went. I did. I needed company. They weren't offering me anything, any money, anything like that. They were just offering me a place to stay and shower and a meal. I'm not completely thrilled with the way things turned out that way, but a couple times I got to sleep in a really schwank hotel room. That was really hard because those are the moments I remember that I feel shame about, and those are the things that, like, I think a lot of girls are afraid to admit. I had to flee a lot and leave my belongings behind at, I guess what you would call flop houses, places where people that are vagrant and drug users go for refuge. And a lot of the time I met good people that were willing to help me a little bit. Unfortunately, there's also people there that were out to victimize women like myself. It was hard to tell who was who, and it was hard to get rested down. Usually drug use going on. I would focus on just getting in a shower, getting in a meal, and trying to not keep my belongings spread out. They're gonna try to get your phone. They're gonna try to get your credentials. They're gonna leave you as helpless as possible, unable to get work, so that they can ultimately make you put you in a prostitution situation. I ended up living in my car. I just didn't have anywhere to go. You know, I'd pick up things like this that would, you know, you can pull up around. I got a blanket here, my backup blanket, a good solid heavy backpack with good stitching. You know, you don't want a cheap one. Something to put your hot food in, your cold food in, like vacuum sealed food. They don't take up a lot of space. It's not cans. If you find somebody that needs a toothbrush, or if you just need a toothbrush, you know what I mean? People can bond over a toothbrush. Be surprised. I can't believe I'm gonna share this, but if there's not a bathroom available, usually I throw my sleeping bag down in the back seat, but sometimes it's easier to stretch your legs out in the front seat. The thing is you can't leave your car running, and it'll drain your battery if you don't have a good battery, you know? That's the hardest part about living out of your car, especially with gas prices and stuff. You just try to stay warm. You get your layers on, not too many layers so you can sleep, you know? But some sweatpants and a nice heavy coat like this, and just get the blanket over you, because you're gonna move a bunch during the night. You can't get settled.
There was no point where I realized just all of a sudden, hey, I'm being trafficked. This is a slow progression. It took a while. It took until I was on the other side of my addiction, until I was out of those thralls before I could realize that I was being trafficked.
It's a recovery process for me to even try to regain my humanity, like trust in humanity, because they stole that from me, you know? It changed my opinion of people. And it almost made me the kind of person that I don't like. And that becomes a really, really hard struggle. And it's all internal. There's no help for that besides faith. I know that God is real. I know He is.
I knocked on the door and there was Pat. Pat helped me with dry socks, shoes, sleeping gear. There was always food here. Bath and body care. They had a wardrobe available, a good stopping point where I could get warm. Joppa pointed me in the direction of women's recovery groups, a place to get my resume made. That made me feel confident. It made me feel like I could get back to work.
I had gone down to Joppa. I noticed they had opened a thrift store, and I said, okay, I'm gonna shop here because they helped me so much. And then I get up to the counter and I started talking to Jackie. I'm really glad that I got a chance to talk to her because it was a moment that we shared and it felt like time stood still. She listened. I am amazed at God's power. I'm amazed at the resources He's made available to me, and He's just moved so much around for me. This is His victory when it does reach the right audience. This is that moment for me. To be able to just share this, to be validated. Yeah. I'm happy about it. Thank you.
I know what we've covered so far. We've talked a little bit about what Joppa does. I think you've seen, some examples in the faces of homelessness, why people are homeless, why we should care, why it matters what Joppa does. Homelessness is a growing problem across the country. It's a growing problem right here in Iowa. And certainly in Des Moines, I'm not an expert on what's going on around here, but I would guarantee you there are homeless folks in your area. But in Polk County, we've got nearly 1,000 homeless people every day that are looking for a place to go. And generally about 250 to 300 or more end up on the streets. So with that in mind, and human trafficking, there's just a lot of living in your car, a lot of complex issues. So you saw a lot of stuff this morning that I was hoping to cover. Does anybody have a question, and then I'll open this up to professors as well, or teachers, pastors, anything that you guys would like to hear a little bit about? Yes, ma'am. Right, the question's about addiction and do we provide resources, and then the implication is that addiction can lead to homelessness. And so the major cause of homelessness is actually economic or socioeconomic. And so people just don't have enough money to afford their housing. And certainly addictions will lead to homelessness. Mental health issues, untreated, will lead to homelessness. Mental health leads to addictions. Addictions lead to mental health issues. The whole thing gets really exacerbated on the streets and it spirals down. So what Joppa does is we work with the federally funded agencies and other service providers in town to make sure that people get the mental health treatment that they need. So we're working with Broadlawns, Irely Paul, with caseworkers, everybody that's unsheltered, if they've checked into a shelter where they've got, they've been in anybody's program, they have a caseworker. And so what we do is try to interface with those existing caseworkers, and then we have people internally that do that. So that's what we do, and we help people get into recovery programs, absolutely. Great question. Any other questions? What's the next question? Yes, ma'am, in the very back.
What kind of volunteer work do you have for college students that don't have a lot of time, maybe?
Volunteer work for college students that don't have a lot of time. You actually heard her because I could hear her. Yes, we do have. We are really primarily volunteer oriented. We have a very small staff, about 12 full-time equivalents, and last year we had nearly 2,000 volunteers. That contributed like 40,000 hours. That may make it sound like we don't need volunteers, but the opposite is true. We have over 300 volunteer roles right now that we're looking for people to fulfill. So when it comes to college students, we absolutely have stuff. If you have, if there are, like for instance, the second Saturday of every month, we call it Second Saturday Workday, just to remind me when it is. And so it's every second Saturday, and it's from 9 to 1. We serve pizza or food towards the end. and it's just a work day where you can show up. So if you have a Saturday free, that's a good one. We have several events throughout the year. We also, a great thing for just casual stuff is sorting donations. That's something you literally can stop by and just help us with spontaneously, for instance. But we do schedule our roles. We do have a couple follow-ups there. We have a volunteer, as we call it, every second Tuesday. So if you happen to be free on a second Tuesday from 6 to 7:30, we're going to give you a tour of all the ways to get involved at JAPA, as well as a tour of our facility and things like that, so you can learn more there. The other thing is just email volunteer@japa.org, and our volunteer coordinator will help you find something. That's really the easiest answer. Yes, Dr. Nichols.
Joe, talk a little bit about the number of weeks that you get out there on the weekends when some of the other services are not available to provide foods and other materials for homeless folks.
Yeah, as far as, so we have a lot of volunteer opportunities, like an ongoing role, maybe if you've got it available or after you're out of college or if you're not in college currently. Every Sunday is our main volunteer day for going out. We try to see everybody that's unsheltered, and we also have a very large aftercare program. So we've helped over 500 families and individuals get into housing to date, and we're at over 80%, right, 85% right now retention rate, and that's because we have this wonderful aftercare program, which is mostly performed by volunteers. So there's lots of ways to get involved. You can come out on Sundays. We have not missed a week since September 3rd of 2008. So even storms, weather, you guys know Iowa, even the pandemic, praise God, we were able to operate all the way through that, and safely, following all the protocols, of course. No one got sick. But we have not, so we've been out there over 750 weeks now, where we've not missed a single week or weekend. So it's a way that you can get involved. We're also out during the week with staff, and there are a number of other things that, did I answer the question?
Yeah, and you've got several routes that people go on to meet the people or greet and check in on them.
Yeah, we'll probably have 75 to 100 people that go out every Sunday afternoon, so there's lots of room to get involved there. We like to have people just come out and check it out once. So if you want to schedule, that's something you do need to schedule for. But if you want to schedule and come out and just kind of check it out and see what it's like, you can do that once. What happens is if it gets laid on your heart, it's something you want to commit to, then we ask people to pick a Sunday each month, second Sunday, third Sunday, whatever, and we're going to count on you, and we're going to train you and stuff. Or if you want to do it 4 times a year instead of 12 times a year, that would be the 5th Sunday. And so we can sign you up, you make a commitment, then we count on you. And we have 10 routes right now that are going out every week, and each route requires multiple people. And we've got a whole system that Dr. Nichols saw when he was there. We're very organized, or try to be, and so we've got everything kind of lined up so that when you get there, you'll be able to focus on what you need to do and helping people rather than worrying about what do I need to do or where's the stuff that I need. So, great. How about other questions? Yes, ma'am, right here.
Can you tell us more about the tiny homes?
Yeah, the question's about tiny homes, and so, the fundamental solution to homelessness is just to provide housing that people can afford. Now, there's this term of houseless, and people are not sure what to do because with that term, because they think maybe it's kinder than homeless and things like that. But in reality, what that's doing is kind of trying to say it's just about a house, and it's really typically not just about a house. We have all kinds of agency partners that are putting people into housing, and they don't stay there. They come back out, and so you need to have that follow-up. You need to have that new social network or that we call it adopting and mentoring sometimes in our aftercare program. So we're like adopting someone. It's like a uncle or brother or sister or something, and they're going through hard times, and we're going to help them, process that and think through that and stuff. So a little bit of mentoring. But that's how you keep people in housing. And you asked about the tiny homes. So, sorry, the tiny homes are a solution. They're about as of last June, there were 119 tiny home villages operating across the country. And it's just it's a proven model that exists in almost every state but Iowa. There's different kinds of villages. They've all been grassroots they kind of approach the problem different ways. None of them very few of them, I should say, are federally funded. And there's two kinds. There's a transitional kind and there's a permanent kind. And we really believe in the model. It's great. Both kinds are needed. And so we have been working on, generally it takes cities about 5 years or process. There's the not in my backyard, everybody thinks this is a great idea, until you say, well, I want to put it in your neighborhood, or I want to put it next to your business. And then, all of us would suddenly switch hats and go, wait a minute, what about my kids? What about my property value? What about the safety of my neighborhood? What about my customers? Am I going to have to hire people to, I'm going to have vandalism. I'm going to have to hire people to keep people safe. Are people going to be urinating in my parking lot or in my yard? And so those are all common concerns that any of us would have as a homeowner or a parent or a business owner. And so you just have to work through those issues. But it takes some time, and when people understand, again, these are operating across the country, and what generally happens, we have a video on YouTube, same channel. If you guys want to see these videos or share them, you can go to YouTube/Java Outreach. That's our handle on social, same handle on all the socials, so we're Java Outreach on social. And so there's a video from Madison, Wisconsin, where there's a tiny home village there that we visited several years ago. And there's a guy across the street, on his porch with the village in the background, talking about how, I fought it. I just thought, it's a knee-jerk reaction. I just thought we had to stop this thing. I didn't want homeless people in my neighborhood. And he just talks, frankly about it. He says, but now that it's there, I love it. And we go over, my wife and I, and we volunteer in the village. We think it's a great thing. We don't know why we fought it anymore. So you just kind of have to go through that process with people, and it takes time. And then in Des Moines or in any city, you've got to get a council member that's willing to approve it. So you got to have political will, and maybe a county member, supervisor in our case, that's willing to support it. So it's like finding a needle in a haystack. It has to be within a mile of a grocery store or a convenience store. It has to be within a mile of a bus stop. It has to be near a sewer hookup if it's not a city. Lots of requirements, and so it is literally like looking for a needle in a haystack. But we're making progress. We have some land, and we're close to getting that land approved, and we hope to be building in the next 2 years. Long answer to a short question. But I know you guys wanted to hear a little more about that. Yes, sir?
I was wondering if you had an experience where you're out in the field and you're trying to provide service, but there's a person that doesn't want help. And if so, how do you handle that?
So the question is about what if we're out providing services and the person does not want help? So we honor people's choices. We think that's really important. It's the dignity of choice. If your choice is that you don't, want our help, or maybe you have a bad day, we just respect that. We just say, I'm, sorry, we'll come back later. We make it about us instead of about them. If somebody, doesn't want our help or specifically refuses how, that's a little bit of a problem with the government program because we're trying, government programs, because we're trying to just pick people and then put them in housing, and they say, I don't want the housing. So they get in the housing and then they just do what they're doing with no intention of staying there, and it doesn't always work. But when it does work, it's great. Don't mean to sound like the HUD programs aren't good, because we couldn't do what we do without the HUD programs. There's a challenge in every solution, and there's no perfect solution here. So that's just some of the challenges with some of the government programs. Did I answer your question adequately? Thank you. How about other questions? I really love to interact and follow what people are interested in. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. I'm Gina. Hopefully your mom recovers well. I'm sorry to hear that. As one of the business professors in financial literacy, I do talk about homelessness among college students. What challenges are you seeing that maybe college students are facing?
The questions about challenges college students are facing, and we have homeless folks in every level of school. K through 12. I know in the Des Moines school system, I think there are close to, last I heard this was a couple years ago, close to 2,000 children that are homeless that are going to school. So you know that that's here, and maybe some of you have experienced homelessness, or maybe you will at some point. As far as challenges go, there's nothing like getting a great education. So you're in the right place. You're in a faith-based school. Having faith is super important. It helps people, bridge between problems that come up. I don't think you're really asking me for advice, though. You're asking me about challenges. The challenges are, we not getting a good education, but partying too much. We go out and we drink, or we have fun, or whatever we do, and if that's uncontrolled, that can lead to problems down the road. I'm not really sure where to go with this question. Why don't you tell me what would be the most helpful in answering that? Because I feel like I'm out of my league. I'm not a student anymore. I'm older, so I feel like I'm talking about something I may not know much about.
No, you're fine. Just in what ways organizations can support students, that may not be sharing that information, or you may be unaware, but especially when you talk about those moments where they could be transient. for example, things we talk about in class are maintaining good relationships, right? Because if you decide to not listen to your parents, you know, they could, so those types.
So it is okay for me to offer some advice. So I'll tell you, now that I have permission, one of my mentors, myself, he runs a tiny little village down in Austin, Texas, one of the most successful in the country. He calls homelessness, and I agree with him, the main cause of homelessness is the catastrophic loss of family. And by family, what we really mean is your support system. It does mean your family, but it also means your friends, your extended family, whatever family means to you. If you don't have a support system that you can fall back on, because we all go through issues and things happen. People are homeless. Why are people homeless? Well, the story is different for every single person, but it falls into two categories. It's either choices I've made, or it's circumstances, things that have happened to me, or it's some combination. And so things do happen, bad things happen to good people, right? You may have made all the right choices. I don't know if anybody's made all the right choices. I've certainly made many bad ones. But maybe you have, but something just happens to you. And a lot of times health causes homelessness. And you might be, you might have a nest egg, you've saved your whole life, you get older, your spouse gets ill. You're working through that, you've got deductibles, etc. It begins to drain your account. You want your spouse to live. And so eventually your spouse maybe dies. Maybe your spouse was the breadwinner, and now you're living on lower income and you drained your whole. We have more elderly people becoming homeless than, it's just a scary thing. And part of that is the pandemic, part of that is the inflation, and part of that is just health problems that happen to people. So really, save as much as you can, put away some money for rainy day and for your future, because and even no matter how much you have, this can happen to people. So family support, relationships, burning bridges is really the beginning of the end, if you will. So I would say maintaining healthy relationships, maintaining, using alcohol if you use alcohol wisely, not abusing alcohol or drugs, and on and on. You guys know all this stuff. So I think we have to take a longer term perspective, because if we have a short term perspective and we're just going for what feels good today without a plan for the future, I am really getting out of my territory. So how about other questions? And thank you for asking that. I don't often get stumped, and I was very close to stumped.
Last question. Right here, Mikhail.
You guys offer financial planning for classes?
So there are some financial classes in town that we offer. One's called BudgetWise, and what we do is sit down with people one-on-one. We often find people are not really interested in going to a class. We try to get them to go to a money management class, and they say, well, I'll do that when I have some money. I don't need money. What do I want to worry about money management? You guys get that, right? So I think we do. There are several classes in town, but really what works the best for us is just to sit down with people. And often what we're doing is just going through their budget and just talking to them about it, right? It's like, do you need the cable TV? You can't, look at this, it doesn't work. How do we make this sustainable? So thank you guys so much for your questions and your interest. I appreciate your patience today. And if you guys have any more, you can find us at japa.org. I told you about the volunteer, about the YouTube, so just let us know. We'd love to stay engaged with you.